Hello, Saratoga. My name's Dan D. Federicis. I'm here with the Saratoga podcast on this November 3rd, 2022. I'm here with my good friend Adam Israel. Our third co-host, Robin Dalton, has a personal commitment and could not make it today. Adam, you look like you're at somewhere very pleasant. So how you doing and where are you?
Good. Yeah, we have family in town, so we're in Vermont. We got a little place out here, so we're just kind of taking them around with this gorgeous weather. You might have cheered weather, two episodes too soon because it's just been gorgeous this last week when the family's in from Poland. So we're taking them around America.
Wow, they're convinced the Northeast has wonderful weather well into November, and they just got lucky. This weekend's going to be even better. It's going to be 72 both Saturday and Sunday. Good Lord, we could have had the Breeders' Cup here in Saratoga Springs.
That would have been something, huh?
Yeah, that would have been something. It'll never happen, unfortunately. I would love to see it happen some year. Take your chance. If it's 48 and raining, we'll still party. But I know Saratoga's not quite set up for that, and they wouldn't do it. But I would love to see it. One of my dreams, actually. So, hey, lots going on. My goodness, we're 5 days away from the elections. I just did early voting, by the way. Folks, don't forget the early voting's pretty easy, pretty available. Although I have a complaint that'll be my cheerleader or my jeer later. I will not say it now, but I do have a complaint regarding the situation with early voting. And then we're 2 days beyond a city council meeting that you've got some information on. I've got a little bit of comment on based on what I saw. And we'll do you want to start there?
Yeah, I kind of feel like we've been spoiled with some fireworks on the city council meeting. There wasn't much, last night in the terms of fireworks and drama that, it's probably not great for city business, but sometimes fun to watch.
Yeah, there was a little though. There
was, and the mayor and the commissioner of accounts, Dylan Moran, got into it again a little bit. You want to kind of talk us through that?
Yeah, from what I saw, Dylan Moran sort of blindsided him. Not that the mayor shouldn't be ready for something because they've been at it, seemingly every meeting. And it was just normally almost a ministerial portion of the meeting where he's trying to get approval for the outside counsel for labor issues, and the mayor discusses it and talks about the money of it and so forth. And it just looked like it was just going to be a simple vote and so forth. And sort of a little bit from left field, Dylan Moran says, "Well, wait a minute, explain to me how you can use this law firm for your uses." And I'm summarizing, maybe not entirely accurately. Dylan, I'm sorry if I don't do it completely accurately. But essentially, he accused the mayor of using this law firm as his own law firm. And then when Dylan wanted to use them, what Dylan said is the attorney said, "Sorry, we work for the mayor." I'm guessing, I don't know this, but I'm guessing what the attorney said was, "Hey, if you and the mayor are having a beef, we're conflicted out. We're already handling one side of this. We can't handle both sides of this," which is a perfectly appropriate answer for an attorney caught in the middle with one entity. I don't know that they said that, but I'm guessing that. But it got a little ugly, and it caught the mayor off guard.
Yeah, I think it's one of these circumstances where both the mayor and Dylan may be right. The mayor was making the argument, and we certainly had talked about this. And it's funny, we're 9 months now into their term, or 10 months, almost 11 months now. Geez. But at the very beginning, the mayor abolished the city attorney position and the assistant city attorney, but since brought that back, and decided the city will just use outside law firms to handle city business. Which, there's some logic in that. You don't need a full-time staffer. We talked about that. We didn't think it made sense, and there were some issues along with it. But 9 months after this, the mayor was kind of taking a victory lap, saying, "Hey, we have actually saved the money. If you look at money that's been spent, we have spent less money in legal fees and legal salaries this year than we did last year." So he was kind of making the claim that his process was working, and maybe it was off to a rocky start. Maybe it is working now. The problem then became, when Commissioner Moran told the mayor, "Well, these law firms really, seem like they work for the mayor's office, not for the whole council." To which the mayor pointed out that there's the council department has used these law firms, to handle city business. So it's just the idea of, is it more cost effective to have outside counsel or inside counsel? And if you have outside counsel, how do you handle these conflict of interest? But it could be worked through. I think there could be something there if it saves the city money to primarily lean on outside city counsel, but you'd have to develop a way to protect from conflict of interest. When if the mayor's department is, as Dylan said, is using the attorney to attack somebody in his department. I don't know if attack was the best word, but there are inherent conflicts of interest. I don't know. Any thoughts on how to get rid of those conflict of interests?
It's funny. I did think of that, and just let me say, the problem with having exclusively outside counsel is it can get really expensive. There are needs for it for the specific. I agree with the mayor for labor negotiations. You're probably better off having outside counsel, but not for everything. I think you need to have the. We do have a. Is he part time or full time now, Tony?
That's a great question, Dan.
Yeah, I can't. I think
we'll
he was
just next show.
30. I want to say 30 hours a week. I don't know, but I think that's necessary in the city, sir. If you're a small village, if you're the village of Victory, New York, you certainly don't need a full-time attorney. You can use outside counsel for as much as you need. But a city of this size, it's a city. It's a decent size. I think at least one full-time, and some people would argue two, or at least 1.5 in-house attorneys to handle some of the things, and then kick out the specialty things. I'm sorry.
Administrative things, right?
Yes.
Just making sure the contracts, all the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed.
Yeah, there's a million questions that staff and the elected officials have in a week, and the in-house attorney, especially someone as experienced as Tony Izzo, is very capable of answering those, and that's helpful. Rather than you call the law firm, the outside law firm, you call them to say Merry Christmas, and it's billable. It's a.
I know.
So it can run up into hundreds of thousands of dollars before you blink. So that makes sense.
Yeah. So here's another interesting thing at City Council came out. As we talked about, there's an election coming up. The Commissioner of Public Works, Jason Golub's up for, I guess, he was appointed to that position on the passing of Skip Scirocco, but he's seeking to be reelected to that position. And if you've been watching the City Council meetings, a group of concerned citizens from Grand Ave have been coming, I don't want to say every meeting, but pretty much every meeting, sometimes in mass, sometimes just a single voice, asking for sidewalks, painting the picture that it's very dangerous without a sidewalk there. Cars, it's kind of an extension out to the western part of our city. Cars fly through there. And they've been very vocal about wanting sidewalks. And, poof, the City Council meeting right before the election, Commissioner Golub found $1 million for him.
Lo and behold, Eureka! We found money.
Yes. Which, you know what? I guess it's that's kind of how politics work. That's the game.
The squeaky wheel. This was a well-timed squeaky wheel.
And that's what they kept on saying. Well, this was kind of citizens participating in government. They showed up and they really made their voice heard. The one question I really have, though, is that $1 million, if you look at the budget, DP's budget last year was $12 million. It's getting slashed to $11 million. That's almost. What is that? 9%. Yeah, exactly. Of the budget going to a new sidewalk for one community. It's going to take some financial wrangling, but I have to say I'm glad they're getting these sidewalks, because you could tell that they were passionate about these sidewalks. And, as we talked about, safety is the number one priority of any municipality or government. And this is going to make these neighbors feel safe. And that's a worthy cause. But boy, that's a lot of money to spend on sidewalks that have never been there before.
I'd love to ask somebody. I'm sort of ignorant of this. How do sidewalks in one community get up to $1 million? How is that? I mean, I'm sure there's a legitimate answer, but I'd like to hear a detailed answer. How does that possibly happen? Doesn't that seem absurd? Like an absurd number?
It kind of does, doesn't it?
Yeah. I don't get it. And I'm sure, like I said, if someone broke it down for me, hey, you got to do this, you got to cut trees, you got to remove the roots, you got to do this, you got to do that. For all I know, there's some land acquisitions that need to be made. I don't know, but I'd like to hear. Maybe we need to have a guest on and talk about it in a positive way. But also, one of the questions would be, how does this cost $1 million?
The next, hopefully, whoever wins the next election for Commissioner of Public Works will come on the show and we can ask him.
Yeah.
But you're just to be clear, you're not asserting there's any grift going on or anything.
No, not at all. No. Things are expensive. It's like it's almost like going to a restaurant. Like, since COVID, like, holy cow, everything's gone up. Look at this menu. This dish was $6 less a year ago. So I'm sure that's some of what's going on, but it just shocks me that, if you said a street was $1 million, I get it. On that election, I don't know how to call it. I like them both. I really do. But they're very different, right? They're very different candidates. You got one Ivy League educated attorney, and then you've got the blue collar guy whose dad was a long time, really a beloved commissioner. This is an interesting race. I don't know how to call it.
Yeah, yep. So Anthony Scirocco actually works for the DPW, but not the city DPW, the county DPW.
Yeah.
I know them both. They're both great guys. It's sometimes it's just hard to pick a winner, but I will say they've both run positive campaigns. The one thing in talking with them, it's funny because this kind of came out of both camps. What they're finding is Jason Golub's biggest hurdle, and Jason Golub's African American, but everybody assumed he was part of the Golub family, so everybody thought he was.
I knew better.
Yeah, and Anthony Scirocco, a lot of people don't know that his father passed. They think he's his father. Now, that being said, if you look at his lawn signs, he's running a pretty, the same campaign that his father did. So maybe there's a little science to that. That's not on accident. But it's a tough race because somehow Skip Scirocco was able to get enough people, enough independents and Democrats to vote for him to win in an election that the Democrats nearly swept. So will the Scirocco name carry Anthony through, or will, the changing political temperature of Saratoga and the fact that Jason now is an incumbent carry him through the election? I don't know. If you had to make a pick, this is not an endorsement, but who do you pick?
Who do I think is going to win?
Yeah.
Or,
we'll stay away from endorsements because
I'm going to punt, but I guess I would lean towards Scirocco and his father, right? Because his father is still a part of the campaign, even though he has passed. That's a lot of weight in his favor. His father was a marvelous campaigner. You'd have the street sweepers every night for 2 weeks before election day. He used incumbency like old school politics, like an old school politician did. He used it to the extreme. And I'm sure the son has some of those skills, but he's not an incumbent right now. So I'm just because Anthony Skip Scirocco was commissioner as recently as 7 months ago, right? He was still alive. He died in April.
Yeah.
Like you said, that sort of creates this quasi incumbency for his son, who has the same name, not the same nickname, but the same name. So that may bode well in his favor. On the other hand, there are more Dems in this city than Republicans, and as always, it's going to come down to the independents, right?
The independents, right? That's right. Yeah, it's interesting too. The national polls are saying not that there's going to be a red sweep, but that people are leaning. The Republican base is more motivated. There might turn out more. You're going to see races fall in favor of Republicans this time around. It's going to be interesting to see if any of that comes through on a local level. I personally think after the election last year that I was part of, and seeing how well the Democrats did, I think the momentum of the city is just gone off the rails. Left is not the right way to put it, but it's going to be hard, I think, for a long time for a Republican to win. As a Rhino, I hope I'm wrong, but that's just my feel. So we'll see. We'll find out in a week or 5 days.
On the governor's race, the polls claim it's close. I don't think it is. I'm not necessarily a Kathy Hochul fan, but I say she wins by 8 points. I don't think it's going to be close. The Republicans in this state are what the new Republican Party is, or the more right, the Trump Republican Party. That just doesn't play in this state. And I don't think the polls are accurate. I could be wrong because Hochul's got some holes in her resume. Crime, obviously, is one of them. So I could be wrong. I just don't think. I just know New York State, and more so than 28 years ago, when George Pataki was first elected. It's that much more democratic, that much more liberal. So I just don't see Zeldin winning. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. Locally, and some of the other elections, what I've noticed in Saratoga Springs, and you tell me if you agree or disagree, that if there's not a very clear reason to throw out an incumbent, in other places they do throw out incumbents for less than a clear reason, but here they stick with incumbents and they get turned off by negative campaigning. Dave Catalfamo, running against an incumbent Assemblywoman Kerry Warner, has run a mostly positive campaign. He said, I'm a Saratoga Republican. We had him on the show, 2 weeks ago. He has not followed the national Republican game plan. He's followed a very specific one. I don't know if he can get it done because Kerry Warner is a terrific campaigner. I think I like them both, but I think she's a terrific assemblywoman, and I don't know how he wins that. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't think, especially in upstate, that crime is the issue that it is downstate. At least not yet. I mean, we certainly, there might be an uptick of crime here, but it's not. I just don't feel like I do when I walk around New York City. So that issue that's really, I think, helping the red wave here might not be an issue so much. And I got to say, going back to Kerry Warner campaigning, I see her stuff everywhere. Boy, she, I don't know who's running her campaign, but it's effective on getting her name out there and getting her top of mind because, she just pops up in a lot of places. Sometimes I'll be, doing one thing and she's on this TV and my phone's, dinging with her name on it. So anyway, both great candidates. We're lucky to have them both.
Yes, I hope Catalfamo, if he does not win here, I hope he has a role here somehow, some way. Well, how that is, I don't know, but I don't want to see him go away. I think he's a talent. I like him. I just like Kerry more, at least in this election. And jump into the Senate race. Got an old familiar face, Jim Tedisco, and someone that's not very familiar to us, at least in Saratoga County, Michelle Osterlich. But boy, she's running an energetic campaign. Jim, even though it's a new district for Jim, he is well known in this county. His current district has a tiny corner of Saratoga Springs already, so he does have part of the county and a small part of the city. So he's not a stranger here. But Michelle Osterlich is running a really strong campaign, probably with a lot of money behind it from both sides, for that matter. It hasn't gotten as ugly as I thought it was. I thought maybe I'm missing some of the ugliness, but I thought I'd get 15 flyers in my mailbox every day and things like that, and I haven't seen that.
Yeah. That's, again, two good candidates. It's a tight race. We'll see. Hey, but Dan, let me ask you a question, and maybe you can shed light. The going back to the Kerry Warner, didn't she get endorsed by the state police PBA?
She was, and I should know this because obviously it's my world. She got plenty of police endorsements. I want to say I know she got endorsed by the union that I worked for 10 years, the Police Benevolent Association of New York State, the PBA of New York State. That's
what I was talking about. She got that endorsement.
PBA. Yeah, there's the trouble is there's so many PBAs out there, it gets confusing.
Really?
The PBA of New York State, I worked for them for 10 years. They represent all the other state police officers other than the troopers. So the Park Police, the SUNY, the State University Police, the New York State Forest Rangers, and the New York State Environmental Conservation Police. About 1,200, probably down to 1,100 members now. Good size union, fights hard. They endorsed Kerry Warner. I don't know. I can't say either way.
Yeah, that was that's who I was talking about. I always lumped them in and thought that it was all one, but hey, you learn something new every day.
Yeah, and there's a park police officer off duty, of course, who's representing the union, who's on her commercials, endorsing her.
Yeah. Well, it was probably
one last thing, Adam. The DA's race is a spirited race as well. Mr. Phillips brought a lot of energy to the race. I think even though he forecasted this a year ago, he was active in March, April, May. I haven't seen Karen Hagan show as much energy as she might have looking at this challenger. I don't know. Maybe energy is not the right word, but he's coming at it really aggressively. I haven't seen it quite as aggressive from her end. He's been firing the shots. I haven't seen
that might be a personality thing. I watched their debate, and in their debate, she was kind of slow and steady and very factual, and he was kind of he kind of had the fireworks. So that might just be a characteristic of their personalities.
Yeah, she was almost wonkish in her answers, and so a little bit of inside baseball discussion. And he wasn't as firing as I expected him to be, but he still came out on the attack to some degree. Made the Nexum cult an issue. Certain prosecutions the poor man that was punched on Caroline Street and died. Mr. Phillips said the convictions, and Ms. Hagan has a really commendable conviction rate, but he said these were lower level convictions than they should have been. We don't know how good or bad those cases were as far as the fine points of proving manslaughter and other more serious crimes. So I don't have an opinion on that.
Yeah. On another note, you see the Riggy house sold? Well, I don't think it's closed yet, but
from a scrap metal billionaire. I'm told if you go down to the Port of Albany, he's got like acres and acres of scrap. And he just like has a major part of the Port of Albany, and he's from I believe the Binghamton area, which makes it even more quirky. But that was a quick sale. I'm gonna a shameless plug for Julie and Company, who was the co-lister there. She's full disclosure, she's a advertiser on Saratoga Report, but I like her and I'm going to plug her. She co-listed it. It was, it sold quickly. Good for her and her company.
Yeah, shocking. It's interesting. In City Hall, there's a hot mic moment in the beginning, and I'm always waiting for a good hot mic moment. Haven't gotten one yet, but Commissioner Moran was actually talking about the man. So this comes from Commissioner Moran's hot mic. That his name is Adam Weitzman, and as you said, he's a scrap metal mogul. He actually spent time in prison, came out, cleaned himself up, and he became wildly successful, and now is quite philanthropic. So it's welcome to the community, Adam. Welcome to Saratoga.
I did not know that he spent time in prison. Very, very interesting.
Yeah, well, again, hot mic from Dylan Moran. So
okay,
wrong, let me know.
Okay, yeah, we should qualify that. We don't know that to be a fact, but you're quoting what Dylan Moran said on a hot mic.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we're not endorsing that as true. We're just quoting.
Yeah, one other meeting I went to, which I thought was pretty interesting, is this sci-fi fiber that's going into the roads, Dan. And let me tell you a little about this because it's pretty neat. This was a initiative of Commissioner Madigan. Now, as a city commissioners can have whatever initiative they want. That's how our charter's written. You can't. This is more of a DPW thing. It would seem, putting fiber in the roads, but this is, the Smart City Initiative was important to Commissioner Madigan. So she started this process, kicked it off, and essentially what it is, it's pretty neat. This company, Sci-Fi, agreed to come in and put fiber into the ground, high-speed fiber, and it's going to be run, and it's going to go to everybody's home, so everybody's going to have access to it.
Everybody in the city?
Everybody in the city.
The outer reaches of the city?
Yep. It's going to go to every home. It's something like a 32 or $36 million investment. The city didn't put up a dime for this. All right. Now, where's the business model there? This company, Sci-Fi, then is going to essentially rent these lines to internet service providers. So internet service providers can now come and, instead of just getting your internet from Spectrum, you will now have options, which is really neat, because what that'll do, if nothing else, what that'll do is force Spectrum to become more reliable and have competitive pricing, right? So you don't have to switch your provider. You're not going to be required to, but you can if you want, and you'll have options now, and quality options. And it's a really neat thing for our city that will hopefully attract some high-tech business to our area. It's going to open up a lot of doors. I think, they're talking about helping get, internet. And this was one of the great dividers I think we saw during the pandemic, is access to internet. If you didn't have access to internet, and this is, mainly the poor and marginalized communities that may not have access to internet or good internet, it's really a game changer to have strong internet in these homes. So, there was certainly talk of, and there was a detailed talk about how this is going to be given for free, to the people needing this service. But it's the negative and the pushback, which is the only negative, is they're going to have to trench the streets. So, and they've already run trials, and they're going to come and they're going to dig and put, so someday down your road, there's going to be a big saw hooked to a front of a tractor that's going to put a little, micro trench, and they're going to lay the fiber. As we get closer, this is not scheduled to be completed until I think summer of 2023. But as we get closer, we'll have somebody from Sci-Fi on. I've talked to them; they're really willing to come on.
Wait, next summer, this gigantic project, which seems to me a behemoth of a project, that's going to be done by summer?
Yeah, I think they said once they start going. Oh no, Let me come back to you on that one. The meeting was 2 weekends ago. We missed that, so I don't have my notes for that. It might be the following summer, but
Okay, because boy, this summer I tip my hat to them if they pulled that one off.
yeah, because they can't dig. And it was the following summer. But listen, we'll have Commissioner Madigan on to give all the details.
Okay.
But it's really going to be spectacular. And so if you see this salt going down your road, you know what it's doing, because they can't cut in the winter because obviously the ground freezes. So.
Is this something that Saratoga is getting, and exclusively Saratoga, or generally, or they're not going everywhere? They're coming here because
they're not going. No, there's only I think they listed maybe 2 or 3 other cities where they did this business model in. So it's a really neat thing that's again started by Commissioner Madigan. She really pushed for this, and then Commissioner Golub. Now this is again election year. He's kind of taken the. He's kind of taken the reins on this, which makes sense because it is a DPW thing more than it is a finance thing. And he was at this meeting helping announce the kickoff of this Fiverr. So look, starting in TBD, you're going to have more internet service provider options.
Ah, wow! Can't argue with that. Anything to poke at Time Warner, Spectrum, or whatever we call them. Be happy.
Yeah.
Good. What we are at 26 minutes. Where you and I hum along here. It's not that Robin holds us up. It's that three of us hold up. I think when any 2 of us go, we hum along here.
Yeah. What did you see? I got a couple more things here. Unfortunately, it looks like Longfellow's sold.
Yeah.
And I always loved it. It was an icon of Saratoga. I never knew the proprietor. What was it, Sullivan? Mr. Sullivan?
Steve Sullivan. Sully, everyone called. How do you know everybody in town? How do you not know him?
I don't know. Maybe I do know, but everything I heard was just how good of a guy he was, how charitable he was. So it's really it's a loss for the city. I'm sorry. I've been in the hospitality business. It's a tough business. I'm sure he's going to enjoy not getting those calls at 10 o'clock on a Friday that a dishwasher's down. But it's a shame. That was a really staple, something that made our community special. So sorry to see that go.
Exactly. You and I talked a little bit about this earlier in the week. There's a good article today in the Daily Gazette about it. Times Union has one as well. And Sully, as everyone calls him, said, this didn't seem like an economic thing. He said, I'm 66 years old, kind of like what you just said about the demands of the hospitality industry in a big building like that, which probably needs a lot of care and feeding. And then the industry itself, is just restaurants and catering and weddings and conferences. And, who could play? He's got an 82-year-old silent partner. So okay, we did it. It's time to move on. Take some money from it. I don't know if we know of a price yet. Apparently the new owners are going to do significant rehab to it, remodeling and so forth. How extensive that will be? Will it change the general composure of it? I don't know, but I find it interesting. I think it's great that there's a new owner stepping up.
That's smack dab in our green belt. So they're gonna face some headwinds if they try to do too much. But we'll see.
Yes. Yeah, that is an area that's Saratoga National found. That's an area that needs to pretty much stay the way it is. But hate to see it, but I get it. At least it wasn't an economic failure. At least I don't think.
Yeah, I don't think so either. Real quick, I just want to Todd Chimkis, the president of the Chamber of the Saratoga County Chamber of Commerce, was at the city council meeting announcing a program called Love Our Locals. It seems pretty cool the way he described it. Essentially, if you buy or use local goods or services, you take a picture of the receipt, you send it to the Chamber of Commerce, and they enter you into a drawing to win. It's like $800 a week in local gift cards. So again, just an excuse to shop local. And maybe you win something, put some get a gift card to another local establishment in the city or in the county. But it's a neat program, so go to the Chamber's website if you want to learn more. But I thought that was something worth noting.
Yeah, how did I miss that? I did not know that. I think it's a great program. If you recall, Love Our Locals used to be Save Our Locals. And there were some business owners I talked to that didn't like that. It's like, hey, we don't want to look like we're begging for business here. We're, it's a tough world, especially in COVID and so forth. But we want people to come down because there's great options, not because they feel guilty or something. So I don't know if that's the reason beyond the shift or to the shift of love our locals, but I love shopping in downtown Saratoga. I feel great that I'm supporting downtown Saratoga, but it's not my primary motivation. My primary motivation is there's really neat things to buy. There's some great shops to go to, and some great food and beverage along the way. So interesting. So yeah, we got to do more with that, and I'm gonna look into that.
All right. Well, I think that's all I got. You want to lead us off with cheers and jeers?
Yes, I do. Robin, hang on here. Robin usually does the fancy
The animation.
Yeah, let's see if I got it here. My goodness, look at that. I'm a tech genius. This week's cheers and jeers. Yes, I've got a couple. I am gonna start off with my jeer. It's not so much a jeer, but a minor complaint. I talked about the early voting, which I am a fan of. But if you live in Saratoga Springs here, you got to go somewhere else to early vote. This is the most populous municipality in the county. So, and yet we have to drive to either Boston Spa, Greenfield Center, or Wilton to do the early voting. I know everything costs money, but I don't understand why we can't have an early voting location right here in the Spa City. I think it would be the number one usage, I would guess. And we just don't have it here. So that's technically a jeer, more of a, soft complaint. Mm-hmm. And my cheer for the week is What's Going On Saratoga Facebook page, founded, administered by our own Adam Israel. Adam, that site's got almost 28,000 members. I'm probably not telling you anything you don't know. And this is sort of a sad story within the cheer of your Facebook page. But if you want to find out news, long before I have it on Saratoga Report, long before the newspapers have it, go to What's Going On Saratoga. The sad story being there was a body found in Congress Park at the tail end of the weekend. And your site, Adam, had people writing about it and accurately saying what had happened 24 hours before any of the news sources had it. And I spotted on there. And when I read it, that someone said there was a dead body there. Well, it's Facebook. You got to take it with a grain of salt, right? But I went to Congress Park, and sure enough, there was a police officer on a post clearly keeping watch over something. And I spoke to him briefly. He could not give me details, but it was clear something was going on there. And then, as you know, it turns out that really what was commented on Facebook was accurate. And sometimes it's not accurate. I get that. You got to be careful. But your site breaks news. Your site does a lot of good things. But the breaking news aspect of it, because people have their ear to the ground and you got 28,000 people on it almost. That's really an incredible page. If you're on Facebook, folks, I don't need everybody's on Facebook that would watch this podcast is already on your site. I don't need to tell anybody that. But that's my cheer, Adam. Good for you for starting that. When did you start that?
Boy, when did I? Maybe 5 years ago. I remember. I'll give a shout out to the Barrel House. They were my first post. In the beginning, it's this kind of an unproven entity. People are nervous and not sure what to make of it. So a high school classmate of mine, Charlie Eustace, in the Barrel House did the first post. I remember the excitement of hey, this is going. And then during the pandemic, it started to grow exponentially. It's I wish I could monetize it. I don't think it's something that should be monetized. But it's something that I love to give back to the city. I like to say it's a little bit Oprah sometimes with good information. It's a little bit Jerry Springer sometimes, but you can choose what to look at. And we do our best. You help me manage it now, Dan. I appreciate it. We don't get paid. We get spam sometimes. It happens. Scroll on by. But anyway, thank you, Dan.
Yeah, absolutely. And you've got a plan. You and I talked. You've got the beginnings of a plan to address the spam. Folks, if you're noting the spam in there, I think Adam's got some ideas.
Yeah. We talked about. Listen, if you want to be a moderator, shoot me a message. Again, we were asking for moderators for spam, not for content. So if somebody says something you don't agree with, or you don't like, or you don't find offensive, we would ask that you kick it to us, because this was really started with my vision of what's allowed and what's not. And it's like pornography. It's hard to quantify, but it when you see it. I know what's allowed there, what's not. It's hard for me to express that to other people. But as far as these I don't know, these spam posts from around the world, it's
purely spam. Yeah. And nonsensical in many cases. At least from what I can see. So excellent. Okay, Adam, you got any cheers and jeers for
Yeah,
back?
I'm gonna have two jeers. How about that today? So
Okay.
my first jeer, and I'm just gonna piss everybody off, but my first year is for the National Republican Party and the election denying and the harassment at the poll sites. Showing up with long cameras, with weapons. Watching poll sites is a form of intimidation, and it really goes against a free and fair election. I understand that you should be able to question an election without being called an election denier, but that ship has so far sailed right now with what the ex-president Trump was saying about the elections that the Republicans, and I don't want to say the Republicans, the far left Republicans or far right Republicans have cried wolf with elections not being fair. So it's made it hard now to actually question election integrity, which is something that should be allowed and okay. But again, intimidation at polling sites is never okay, and it's a really poor thing for our democracy. Now, my other jeer are for the far left Democrats at the local level, because if you look at conspiracy theories in the city, it's supported by the far left. The conspiracy theory that the police killed Daryl Mount was used for political gain, and it was just that, and it really it hurt a lot of our police officers by having them labeled racist killers. And we say this is just not true. It's the far left who shows up to city council meeting and use intimidation factors like long cameras, the same ones that the far right uses, or they will, if you speak out at public comment and say something they don't like, they'll come to the next public comment and call you out personally. And I think that's not, that's just intimidation. And public comment period people should feel open and welcome to make their voices heard, not that they're going to be threatened and intimidated. So, the far left Dems locally with the conspiracy theories and intimidation, and the far right, nationally with the intimidation and conspiracy theories. Both of these are bad for us and bad for our country. So
Well done. And I don't think you were striving to aim for both sides. You had legitimate jeers that were in your system that you had to get out. It just happens to be that one's on the right, one's on the left.
Yeah. Usually we try to stick with two cheers if we're going to do anything, but hey. Anyway,
it's election season. Nothing wrong with
election season.
Couple cheers. Excellent.
Yeah.
Good, Adam. Robin will be with us next week, and I won't be here next week. So it'll be just the two of you. So it'll be another hopefully quick one. We're at 36 minutes. Usually we go longer. This is good. Adam, enjoy the awesome weather. I will try to do the same, and I will talk to you, folks. I will talk to you in 2 weeks. Adam, I'll be talking to you along the way.
All right. Stay charming, Saratoga.
Take care. Thanks for watching, everybody.